its air campaign against Ukraine and launching some of its biggest strikes since the beginning of its full-scale invasion. And the White House says Moscow now has a new weapon, North Korean ballistic missiles.
Our information indicates that the Democratic People's Republic of Korea recently provided Russia with ballistic missile launchers and several ballistic missiles. On the 30th of December, 2023, Russian forces launched at least one of these North Korean ballistic missiles into Ukraine. This missile appears to have landed in an open field in the Zaporizhia region. And on January 2nd, Russia launched multiple North Korean ballistic missiles into Ukraine, including as part of its overnight aerial attack. We're still assessing the impacts of these additional missiles.
So what difference is this likely to make? Let's go through this with Ben Hodges. He's a retired US Lieutenant General and a senior advisor with Human Rights First. Welcome back to DW, Ben. Talk us through what these North Korean missiles are and how they differ from what Russia was using previously.
Well, I think there are three important points about this story of the North Korean missiles. Number one, it's a reflection that Russia continues to attack civilian targets with everything they can, whether they're drones from Iran, now ballistic missiles from North Korea, plus their own Russian-made weapons. And all of these are going after civilian targets, apartment buildings, medical centers. None of these are going after military targets. The second part of this that's I think is noteworthy is the fact that Russia is having to turn to North Korea and Iran for ammunition, whether it's artillery ammunition, ballistic missiles, and that says something about the state of Russia's defense industry. These things can still kill, but the fact that Russia is having to go to North Korea and Iran for weapons, I think is an important thing to keep in mind when we assess what is the actual state of the war and Russia's ability to continue the war. The third aspect of this story, which I think is the most important, is that it's very clear that China, North Korea, and Iran are all supporting Russia. And so we, the West, need to think strategically about how these are all connected. Are we properly organized economically, diplomatically, as well as militarily to fight what I would consider the four horsemen of the apocalypse that hate and are trying to destroy everything that we say we care about?
OK, we're going to pick up on some of those points in a moment. First of all, how are these new North Korean weapons likely to affect Ukraine's ability to defend itself?
Well, of course, given the volume of North Korean ballistic missiles, drones, Russian missiles, the Ukrainians are going through an awful lot of the air defense weapons they have received from Germany, from the United States, and from other countries. I mean, there is an attrition aspect to this as well. Patriot missiles, interceptors, and other weapons are being consumed trying to protect Ukrainian civilians. And I suspect that the addition of the North Korean weapons is intended to add to that volume of trying to reduce Ukraine's ability to defend its people and its critical infrastructure. Fortunately, so far in the early assessment, these North Korean weapons appear to be of poor quality, just like the artillery ammunition they provided. So we'll wait to see exactly what Admiral Kirby just said to do an assessment of how effective they are.
Right. And you talked about how the use of these North Korean weapons means that Russia is struggling to produce its own weapons. But I've seen reports that Ukraine's Ukraine's mobile air defences only have ammunition to withstand a few more powerful attacks. So between these North Korean missiles and the promises of military that have been bogged down in the US and the EU, this does look like this is leaving Ukraine somewhere behind in this.
Yeah, this is a real problem. And the Russians see this. That's why they've adopted this long war approach to use everything they can to wear down Ukrainian defenses, because they can see that Germany and the United States in particular are wavering in support. And so they're going to keep doing this approach until either they run out, which is not likely, or we rediscover our strategic backbone and provide Ukraine what is needed. Now, I think one thing that we could be doing is highlighting the origin, the point of origin of all of these different launches, and make it clear that we should at least give Ukraine the ability to strike back at the launch sites from which different weapons are coming. A lot of these things, particularly drones, come out of Crimea and Russian-occupied territory. Why in the world are Germany refusing to provide Taurus and the U.S. refusing to provide ATACMS? And then as far as the weapons that are launched from inside Russia, I mean, in the UN Charter, every nation is entitled to defend itself. And I don't understand why the United States is putting pressure on Ukraine not to strike targets inside Russia.